It's 1764, and France is reeling from a devastating war when suddenly, the southern countryside finds itself terrorized by an unknown predator. Even after the royal army seemingly hunts the creature down and presents a carcass to the king, a second wave of headless bodies begins to appear soon thereafter. Since then, the creature has sparked many conspiracies as to the true nature of these killings. Was this a prehistoric monster, a serial killer hiding amidst the chaos, or something else? Today, we uncover the grisly history of the Beast of Gévaudan. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, true crime, and the unknown. I'm your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor Collins, and joining me hearing this case for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
Okay, we're talking about beast, creature of such.
Sir.
I've expressed many times here and on Patreon on our movie club that I love a creature feature, so I want to know all about it. You know me, I want to know the usual stuff of the lore, its weaknesses, how does it find you? What does it do? All that.
Okay. Oh, I love that. You know what? I didn't even think about that. I know how much you and Christian love creature features, and this is essentially that. And I don't want to get this mixed up either, because we have talked about cryptids, anything from Bigfoot to Mothman, the juiced up Mothman, to the Chupacabra, to the Jersey Devil. This is somewhere in between. This is a real creature. People were actually dying, heads were rolling almost literally, and there were countless witnesses to this creature. And so it's like, it is a really interesting, like, okay, what is going on here if it isn't just like...
So it's a real thing?
Yeah, this is a real thing that went down. There are birth certificates that reference this creature that you can go see scans of to this day. It is a wild one.
I feel like then, is it a creature that's being mistaken for another animal?
I think that's possible. That's very much on the table.
Yeah, I've got thoughts.
Yeah, but like I said, there's so many rumors and conspiracies. And we'll go from the grounded all the way to, like I said, people talked about, is there a serial killer here? Is this a curse? Is this just a normal animal doing its normal animal things? Or is there something even prehistoric here? You know, we talked about that with the Loch Ness Monster. Is this a monster kind of from the Paleolithic era? We'll talk about all of it because it is all very, very fascinating. Before we dive in, some quick promotional elements because we got a lot cooking in the oven right now, Fredo. This Wednesday, we have another poll at redwebpod.com. Come choose your own adventure with us. Anything from Red Web episode topics like this one to movie clubs, scary stories that you want us to do. Recently, we did a ghost hunt location where we had the task force choose where you or I were going to do a solo challenge or what have you.
Yeah.
This Friday, we have a movie club that we just covered. It's called Moon from 2009. Fredo, I don't know if you want to talk about that one.
It's just a space thriller, and it stars Sam Rockwell. It's not what you think, so it's a good time. And most people haven't seen it too.
It's a sleeper movie for sure. And both Christian and I were on this wild ride of like every act. It was like, oh, I thought this was the big part. It's even deeper. There's even more to come. So fun ride. It's even on YouTube. So go watch the movie, then come hang out with us. Get this on your calendars. Now we're getting way in advance because 2 weeks from now, we have our next ghost hunt coming up. This is the travel location as voted on by you guys. We finally went out to West Virginia. I'll be ambiguous right now, but it's a great one. So come check that out in 2 weeks. And then on July 10th, which is a Friday, we are celebrating our 6-year anniversary. We have a big stream in the works, very similar to last year's 5-year stream. So all those details are to come. Support the podcast, get all these exclusives, like all the behind-the-scenes stuff of the ghost hunt at redwebpod.com. All right, so I want to also shout out community member Haste, who is a buff scientist, for submitting this topic. Thank you very much, Haste. Okay, the Beast of Gévaudan is the name associated with a creature that was terrorizing the region of Gévaudan, France. This was from the years 1764 to 1767. Now, right out of the gate, I want to give you an illustration coming from the London Magazine of this creature so you know kind of what we're talking about, Fredo. Take a look at this.
Oh, it's like a serpent dog.
Oh, okay, yeah, it is kind of serpenty. What stands out to you that's kind of unique about this thing?
The teeth, they're more like shark teeth so it's the shape of a dog. The tail seems to be extremely long. It reaches the ground and then curls up some.
Not super fluffy. It's almost like a cat-like tail.
It's like long and looks very flexible, kind of like ferret-esque in a sense. But it's also like a dog, though. That's how it reads initially, more dog. And again, the teeth are like shark teeth.
Yeah. I didn't even think about ferret. That's a great call.
And then the snout is like very pointy, like even pointier. Like you see your dogs and then you see like the wolves and they have like narrow snouts. This looks even narrower than that.
And then it's got those like human come hither eyes.
I was about to say it's got human like eyes, man. I don't know. The artist took some liberties on that one. So it looks like a slithery dog if I was just to give it.
A slithery dog, dude.
Slithery dog.
Yeah, dude. This dog looks like he would pour out of a bucket like water, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
And this is a very common depiction of it. I don't know, again, if it's an artistic interpretation, but very commonly depicted to look like this. And Task Force, just to catch you up, if you want to watch the video version of this podcast, you can do so at Spotify or on YouTube. That's how you can see these images, or on Instagram at RedWebPod. Okay, so let's get you located here. Gévaudan was located in central South France near the Margeride Mountains. This was a historic province that is now a different modern province. I believe it's in modern-day Logère. So the area itself was quiet. It was known for being quite secluded. In fact, historian and author J. Smith wrote this, quote, "It had the reputation for being a remote, isolated backwater where the forces of nature had not been fully tamed, where the forests were indeed enchanted." End quote.
Okay, we like an enchanted forest.
Yeah, a little Red Riding Hood action maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. But already I'm thinking everyone's mind is primed to,
okay,
just primed to things, anything mythical or abstract, weird, different.
Right, you're secluded, the woods are dark, you have a lot of folklore that surrounds this. And I didn't know where I wanted to drop this in, but I do know, it's the 1760s now, so the European witch trials were in recent memory, kind of ending almost, give or take 100 years before this. So I want you to think about that too as we kind of step into this arena. Now, for further context for this location, there were thick, vast forests surrounding this mountainous region, and since it was too rocky to grow crops, many locals instead kept livestock. So there's sheep and all sorts of things like that. In 1764, France was tired and defeated, and I'm going to give you this kind of crash course historical context. I think this will help us understand as you're kind of getting into the psychology of the people impacted by today's story, today's creature. So very briefly, a year had passed since the end of the 7 Years' War, when France suffered from several defeats by the British and the Prussians. The economy is in shambles. They just had a lot of territory shifts. The monarchy is in disarray. And again, that is until this kind of common enemy, this beast, so to speak, enters the fray. And it almost creates kind of an opportunity for the king to create just a unified front on this otherwise terrible moment, a continued terrible moment for France right now.
Okay, interesting. I was about to say, yeah, like a ceasefire type of situation. Enemy of my enemy is my friend type thing. Or no, not that situation. But like it's like, hey, we got bigger problems to deal with.
Right. Like everything's terrible. Let's all focus on this one terrible, maybe. I don't know. Like we can fix
I will say, not knowing the dimensions of this creature, it doesn't give me like, it doesn't give me like I'm such a menace that the war needs to stop, the fight needs to stop, and all the focus needs to be on me.
It's certainly not like that. I mean, the war ended on its own terms.
Right.
That just kind of ended a year prior. So it's fresh in the memory. It's certainly leaving France reeling in a lot of different ways. And I think that honestly lays the groundwork. I mean, obviously wolves aren't like, now's the time to strike, the stocks are down. I think it's just, it kind of paints a better picture of the psychology of the peoples at the time. And, you know, I think that helps carry some of the conspiracies, right?
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, this is a pretty sinister time. So this beast, or as it was called, La Bête, was terrorizing this region, and witnesses describe this beast using phrases like, quote, like a wolf, yet not a wolf, end quote. And so you talked about the size. Let me get you the color real quick. It was brown. It was kind of like a russet color. It had sharp canines and fiery eyes. These are commonly seen amongst people. And it was about the size of a calf, with a dark tuft of hair running along the length of its spine that led all the way down to its bushy tail. And so this is where I'll kind of get into a tangent, because I'm like, listen, growing up in Indiana, I know a little bit about crops and animals, and so I'm thinking a calf in its first year is a calf, like a bovine.
Right.
But a calf ranges quite a bit in size over the course of its life, or over the course of its 1 year. So that could be a normal wolf, or it could be a pretty massive creature, just depending on what age of a calf you're looking at. Also in 1760s, a French calf would be way different than a modern, like, bred calf that's bred for certain things, milk or meat or what have you.
Oh, it's just probably like even smaller.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So with all of that in mind, newborns would weigh between 45 and 65 pounds, or 20 to 30 kilograms at birth. And their height at birth would be 23 to 28 inches, or 60 to 70 centimeters. So nothing crazy. However, at 12 months, when they're kind of no longer considered a calf, this is like the oldest a calf could be, they would weigh a few hundred pounds and would now stand closer to, I think, what the descriptions are after, 40 to 45 inches tall, or like 101 to 114 centimeters.
Yeah, I mean, like 40 to 60 pounds, I could wrangle that. Hundreds, it'll sit on me and I can't move.
Yeah, I don't want a dog that could sit on me and I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, it gets scary. Yeah.
Yeah. So immediately this gives you, I'll give you a more colloquially, it's kind of like an average wolf size, or height, I should focus on, or a surprisingly large canid creature, but more on that later. So, okay, with that hopefully vivid image in your head, plus the picture we showed earlier, let's discuss the beast's reign of terror, which lasted for 3 years and claimed many victims. Now, the reports on the total death do vary by source, of course, as we always see on this show, but the numbers range dramatically, anywhere from 30 to 100, and sometimes upwards of 300 deaths have been reported during this 3-year span of this beast. So, it's pretty aggro, to say the least.
Yeah, this reminds me, there's a movie that's based on a real life lion. It's called The Ghost in the Darkness. It's about a lion that is just this very feral lion that goes on a tear and terrorizes this whole entire village in Africa. And the foreigners that are trying to build a railroad there, so they send in a hunter try and take care of it. So this just seems like I'm getting those vibes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where it's just like, this is a creature. It might be a creature that everyone knows, but then this one just happens to be on a tear and it's just completely terrorizing. And so I don't know, maybe they'll hire a professional to come in and take care of it, because what else do you do? Or I guess, they'll send arms to go try and find it and take care of it.
You're on to something, man, because I'll play my cards a little earlier. That does end up being a huge part of what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if it's killing tens of hundreds of people, you got to get it out of there. Then it's, the politics come into play, where it's like, we don't feel safe. Can you not keep us safe, etc. And so, and also, if you're in office or you're ruling during that time, then from there it's like, oh, easy crowd pleaser. I dispense people to slay the beast. Look what I've done for you.
Right. Especially during this very tumultuous time, a very sensitive time for the crown, in fact. And So yeah, dude, great pull with that movie. Because I've heard stories like that with tigers, all sorts of creatures. There are stories like this, and so I don't doubt this. But I think also what really heightens the fear here is kind of the nature of these attacks. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by First Leaf. Task Force, do you like to look at a good glass of wine at the end of the day, but never really know what to buy? Enter First Leaf. It makes the whole thing pretty easy. They match wines to your taste and send them right to your door. First Leaf delivers premium wines straight to your door every single month. No need to jaunt out into society to figure out what bottles to fumble around with. You just answer a quick quiz about your preferences, and they'll send you personalized selections. No more guesswork, no more settling, and here's what really makes it click. Every box comes with easy-to-follow tasting notes and pairing suggestions right there. First Leaf works directly with wineries, which means you get access to award-winning bottles, including wines you can't always find at your local store, at prices well below retail. I had the pleasure of getting myself a box of First Leaf, and I gotta say, the quiz was very easy. Whether you're an expert or a beginner when it comes to wines, they'll ask you all these guiding questions like your favorite flavors, your favorite foods, and then they'll dial it all in so it's ready for your taste palette. And now we have all these nice bottle of red wines that I'm excited to try. If you're into wines, you should really give it a try. So, stop settling for wines that don't quite hit the mark. Head to tryfirstleaf.com/redweb to sign up, and you'll get 50% off your first box, plus free shipping for an entire year. That's tryfirstleaf.com/redweb. Tryfirstleaf.com/redweb. So let's walk through the first one, and you'll start to pick up a pattern, I'm sure, pretty quickly. So the first attack was an attempt, so not a successful one, as the young woman lived to tell this tale. In 1764, a 14-year-old girl was shepherding her cattle. Her farm was in the Merquar Forest in the eastern area of this region, and as she recounts, the beast emerged from the woods, and instead of attacking her cattle, it seemed almost immediately to focus in on her. It charged her, but interestingly enough, almost in her defense, the herd of bulls saw what was happening, turned then to charge the beast and kind of stave it off, scare it away. However, this was not enough to deter it. This beast seemed locked in, focused on getting this young girl, and the beast charges her once more. The bulls then once again charge back, and this time they're successful. They run the beast off, but the girl reported this incident and it was kind of dismissed. Everyone simply thought this was a large wolf. Yes, dangerous. Yes, concerning, but otherwise nothing really out of the ordinary. Again, we talked about in the werewolf episode that we covered ages back, that this was sometimes happening in rural areas where wildlife might get bold. But I find it so interesting, Fredo, that it didn't go after the easy cattle or any of the younger cattle. It turned to her, which is interesting, and then stayed locked in on her.
Yeah, so this one's different. I mean, easy assumption, rabies.
Yeah, absolutely. Or starvation.
Starvation, things like that. But I mean, even with starvation, it's like go after the baby calves, go after, I don't know, but I guess it'd be easier to take down a human than it is a bull.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe she's a small 14-year-old. I mean, most 14-year-olds are, but particularly small. And so, for whatever reason, this predator then says, you're the weak link. Yeah. That's where I'm going, So 2 months go by without any other documented incidents until June 30th, 1764. It seemed the beast would return. This time, it would result in its first killing. So the first death here was another 14-year-old girl, this time by the name of Jean Boulet. And cementing this animal's reputation, her death certificate, like I said, is listed online. You can find scannings of this historic document, and it even points to a ferocious beast, or I should say, the ferocious beast. And because of this phrasing here, historians have speculated that by this time, even though we don't have documented reports, that maybe other deaths might have happened, or maybe other attacks had happened, or at least the community knew about this creature by now. Because they're calling it, this is that beast, right? The ferocious beast.
Right. When you're saying the beast or the beast, not just beast, then yeah, you're talking about a specific one. I mean, right now the pattern is young women. And so I wonder if, like, again, all these fanciful tales of the forest and everything like that, it's like people think it's some kind of curse upon like the young women.
Or witchcraft again.
Because I'm sure thoughts are running rampant.
Right. Absolutely. And a bit of levity here, but I'm genuinely curious here. Do you think, and Christian, maybe you can do a bit of side searching if you don't mind helping me out. I'm very curious, since Beauty and the Beast, bear with me, took place in historic France, in a province. I'm curious if this tale had any bearing, even slightly. Like the Brothers Grimm, those stories are quite dark. And I don't know if Beauty and the Beast is a Brothers Grimm tale, to be fair, but I'm wondering if this tale had any inspiration on that tale, which then became the Disney one.
Yeah, I mean, everyone draws inspiration from something. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know how old Belle was, but she certainly wasn't that old, a teenager of some level. And then you got a beast, and then you got the town that says, kill the beast. And
kill the beast.
I don't know. And then it's France. So I'll let Christian do a little bit of searching, and he'll chime in if he sees anything about that. But
I already did, actually.
Oh, snap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast actually predates this story by a couple decades. Beauty and the Beast was first published in 1740.
1738?
1740.
1740.
I say 1730.
1738. Is that what you just did?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Hello, I'm the Beast.
Oh man, I forget how old some of these stories are.
Dude, I forget the world used to exist before 1990 when I was born and everything, the simulation began. Thank you, Christian. That's actually mind-blowing. I thought we were in that realm, but I thought we were ahead of it. That's wild.
I was like, this thing is so old, it had to have inspired it. Okay, I know. So it was a story that Disney picked up then.
Oh yeah, it's way pre-copyright.
Yeah.
And so they sucked up all these tales and threw them back at us in slightly more fanciful ways. People
Right.
aren't dying left, right, and center.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of these tales back then were a lot more mature rated.
You don't want to know the true story of Sleeping Beauty. Maybe I'll take that to Scary Stories someday.
Oh, wait, is it like for real?
Yeah. It's sinister.
Oh, God.
Yeah, man. Okay, well that's wild. Okay, well maybe an errant page of this story made its way into the wood, and a literate beast read this tale and was inspired. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's bring us back to center. This is the second documented case, the first documented case of somebody dying to this creature, and now, because of that, word travels fast. While they were in denial before, they couldn't deny that someone had died, and the people of Gévaudan were rightfully terrified. And during the first year of these attacks, it was reported that the beast mainly attacked young girls, and sometimes lone men. As they were tending to their livestock, maybe they weren't paying attention. This pattern continues for a little bit, but if you take a look at this next image that comes from 1765, thanks to the Gallica Digital Library, you'll see that the trend kind of starts to change, but this shows some of the encounters across several depictions.
The primary image in the middle is attacking a young woman. Then it's got little like comic-esque, like a newspaper comic.
Yeah, like
strip.
little panels.
And then attacking some lone individuals. And now it's just being a menace and attacking groups, even groups with weapons.
There's pikes.
What the
I believe,
hell?
Yeah. The woman in the middle, we'll actually talk about her in a little bit. She's got a stick with a bayonet at the end of it, and she's hoisting this thing. She's attacking it. But yeah, man. And I'll actually read you. I wanted to translate the caption here, knowing that this comes from the next year, so we're a little out of the timeline. But I want to read you what this says at the bottom in English. Quote, "Depiction of the beast, called the hyena, is wreaking terrible havoc along the borders of Gévaudan and Auvergne. It attacks primarily women and children, tearing off their breasts, devouring their hearts and livers, and severing their heads. On April 18th last, in the parish of Potoc, it devoured a child aged between 12 and 13. On the 22nd, it attacked a young boy and a girl, the latter of whom was rescued in time. end quote. So as you can see, these gruesome details continue to build, and you want to almost worry that it's the rumor mill just going away with you. But these are actual deaths, bodies that are found in these conditions. And so it really starts to tell you how almost aggressive, how vicious these attacks are.
Well, yeah, just the fact that, like, you know, what it eats, it's like tearing through your body and everything like that. And so you think it would just go for any organ, right? But specifically going for, what do you say, the heart?
Hearts and livers. And then it also talked about the breast, which is a more fatty tissue. What stands out to me, and maybe I'm off on the wrong trail here, but I do know that I think orcas, when they hunt, I think it's orcas, there are animals that they kind of leave alive, and they'll bite out the liver. They know where the liver is, and so they'll bite that, almost like they know that particular organ is more tasty for whatever reason. And so I'm curious if that's what's happening with this creature, if it's attacked enough people to know where it's like, well, I like this area of the body because it tastes better. Yeah. And we just happen to know what those organs are.
Ooh. Yep.
You know, like,
yeah, could be that.
Otherwise, without knowing that or thinking about that, it's pretty specific and pretty sinister, especially the decapitation part. It's taking people's heads off.
Yeah, this thing is vicious, man. And I see why everyone's alarmed. Like, it's not just like, I'm gonna bite your arm. It's like, this is what I'm going for, and this is the piece of you that I want.
Like, that seems very intentional. So that's kind of what this image says. I wanted to show you kind of all these different depictions of it, but also kind of coming back to 1764, many of these early reports began to notice these same things. They were saying that these attacks were largely focused on the head and the neck regions at these early phases, in some cases even decapitating the victims, as outlined in this previous image's caption. And soon enough, the story made its way to the press, as any terrifying tale is going to do, and eventually all of France knew about this so-called Beast of Gévaudan. And by the time December of that year rolled around, the killings were so frequent that people began to speculate that there was more than one beast involved in these murders, because otherwise, why would one individual, let's say wolf, continue to hound and hunt and get away with it, but stay hidden and all of these things? Like, why would it kill so often?
Right. And then also, again, this isn't like a overly massive, menacing beast, right? Especially when you're depicting it like jumping into groups of people. It's that brave.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta think, like, over the various amount of encounters, eventually it's taken enough of a beating to succumb to its injuries or something like that.
Right.
And so these attacks are still happening, and yeah, that's what I would think. There's more than one.
Yeah, absolutely. You stab one a few times, maybe it goes and dies, but something else rolls up. Okay, that stands to reason for me. But also, I don't know if he's only eating a liver every now and then or a heart every now and then. Maybe he just stays hungry and so he just stays attacking.
True.
Now on December 31st, 1764, the Bishop of Mont, Gabriel Florent de Choiseul-Beaupré, called for the prayers and penance for victims. The message was written and all the priests in the diocese had to announce it at the beginning of their mass. This is essentially them ringing the bells. This is how fervent the entire community began to be, that they're seeking divine intervention from this beast. They're basically calling for all the priests to talk about this at the top of all of their masses. And in the message, the bishop wrote that the beast was sent from God to punish men for their sins. In fact, he references threats that Moses once spoke, saying this, quote, "I will arm the teeth of wild beasts against them," end quote. And then for 3 straight Sundays, prayers of the 40 hours devotion were made. 40 hours devotions is an act where the prayer is made for 40 hours in front of the Blessed Sacrament or the body of Christ. And as you can imagine, despite these efforts from the church, the attacks continued. Then on January 12th, a young boy named Jacques Portefeuille, along with 7 other children, were attacked near Valeret, which was a small village in the Margeride Mountains. Portefeuille was only 10, and his counterparts, the other 7 or so boys, were between 8 and 12. After several attempts during the attack, the children were finally able to drive the beast off, Portefeuille seemed to lead this counterattack, and the boys used pikes to fend the creature off. This incident was alarming enough to catch the attention finally now of the upper brass. King Louis XV finds out about this, and he actually sends Portefeuille 300 livres, which, my understanding of French, that would be books. But that's actually before they used euros, they used francs, and before they used francs, they used livres. It's essentially an older form of currency based entirely on I believe, the weight of silver, like a pound of silver.
Oh.
So that's where this term comes from. I don't know what this would translate to in modern American currency, but 300 livres for Portefeuille, and then 350 livres were split amongst the 7 other boys as a reward for their bravery.
Okay, they got paid out. Interesting.
Yes, sir.
Wasn't expecting that, but now the information's gone to the tippy top.
Very tippy top. So Portefeuille was also given a free education paid for by the crown, again as this continued reward for the bravery. And this next part might give context as to the value of a livre. So the latest attack spurred the king to send out royal hunters to kill the beast, and he announces a 6,000 livre reward for whoever could defeat the animal. Fun fact, by the way, when I was looking up what a livre was, aside from being a book, this was the very last year that was used. I think in April of 1765 is when they did switch to the franc. So I had just never heard of this before.
Yeah, same. Okay, so now the tables are turned.
Mm-hmm.
The hunter becomes the hunted. But then this is where, like, people just start killing any beast and showing up with it. Like, this is it. I've killed
That's
it.
a great point.
Slayed it. And it's like, no, this isn't what we're going for. This is what we're looking for. This is a bear. This is not the beast that was described. And man, this could be a movie.
It really could.
Yeah.
I mean, it really could. Someone phone up Walt Disney's Frozen Head and tell him we got a story for him. So as you can imagine, news continues to travel fast of this beast. It's going even further, to the point where some historians believe that this might be one of the first true media sensations.
Oh.
Like a viral story.
Interesting. What year is this again?
1765 now.
Pretty far back, hundreds of years.
It's tough for an entire nation to be very aware of one specific thing going on at that point in time.
Yeah, today you get information at the speed of light.
Truly.
Back then, what was it? Is it like mainstream popular and widespread because hundreds of pigeons are flying through the air and messages are being sent out? You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
Like, man, like to get that out there without any, oh goodness, that's a lot of letters.
The Paul Revere style ride through the dark to the next town. The beast was here. Yeah. You know, and fear just spreads, man.
It does. Yeah.
It's contagious. It spreads like wildfire. But another little fun fact, historically, I don't know about King Louis XV in particular, but us doing this podcast right now, our voices are probably hearing more people than some historic kings and queens' voices ever heard. It's a mind-blowing fact, but like most people have been heard by more people than royalty at this time, because like to hear the king's actual voice, you know, is what I'm saying.
It's just the king declared, or whip out a scroll and like, this is from the royal. It's got the royal crier. Seal, and
yes, I declare the king has said, or whatever, you know. But
I didn't even think about that. That's wild. Yeah.
Okay, so the royal army is kicking it now. They're coming after this beast, and even the king's men. They truly did take several attempts at tracking, let alone killing this creature. And so that's another interesting part of this tale is, how did this thing continue to evade capture, or like when it was seen and attacking so many, how are they not able to track it down and get it so readily, right?
Yeah, like I'm sure it's leaving paw prints as it scurries off.
Yeah, right? Something. So the first men on the front lines were the army of 1st Captain Duhamel of the Clermont Prince Dragoons. The order was sent to Gévaudan by the king, and Captain Duhamel was certain that he and his 57 men would succeed in their efforts. After all, they're trained soldiers. Why would they think that they couldn't track down a wolf and put it to its end?
There's no way this wolf tears through them. They're trained,
Right.
they're armed, they've got weapons with distance, and like the creature would attack one and they get obliterated from, blind side. And
Right, just two people attacking at once, this creature's done for, right? This isn't some sort of like the 300 where all what were they?
the Spartans.
Spartans. I almost just said Greeks, but the Spartans are like, their numbers mean nothing in our wolf den.
Yeah, they're not narrowing them into a wolf den and then,
Yeah.
300 style, like you're saying. So I'm very, very curious to see what's going on here.
So what's mind-blowing, Fredo, is that progress almost immediately stalled with this army of 57 men because for whatever reason that I can't totally understand, local farmers and shepherds were reportedly uncooperative. It's unclear why they wouldn't help him, or I don't know if they're actually hindering them, but people are dying. Have you seen a wolf or not?
Yeah, so the fact that they're not cooperating, like there is no reason at this point as to why they wouldn't.
Ultimately, we do know also in these reports that he claims he nearly shot the beast several times, but ultimately his guards, it seemed, were not equipped enough to so-called tame this monster. So frustrated, Duhamel calls upon the king for more help, and the king then agrees, and he sends over 2 wolf hunters. You've got Jean-Charles Marc-Antoine Vaumel de Neval and his son, Jean-Francois, who got the memo that a long French name is difficult for a modern American to say.
It's a very long French name. But now we got specialists coming through.
Yes, a father and son specialist, Antoine and Jean-Francois. So Deneval, or Antoine here, and Duhamel reportedly differed too much in their hunting strategies, resulting in the first captain and his men retreating back to their headquarters. And so now we're just talking about the father and son, and they officially arrived for the hunt on February 17th, 1765. I believe this is somewhere in the land of 10 months after this all really kicked off. And so with them, they brought 8 bloodhounds who had been trained specifically in wolf hunting. The pair then searched for 4 months. They were hunting Eurasian wolves, but when the attacks continued, it was clear that they were simply just unsuccessful. And these seemed to be the guys, like experts in this field. And just for the record, Eurasian wolves are kind of just another term for the common wolf. So ultimately, the pair is then replaced in June of 1765 with Francois Antoine. So Antoine was 71 years old, but he's the official and only king's gun bearer. For the first few months, Antoine too was unsuccessful. It's just mind-blowing to me, Fredo, that these guys are, well, you hope that it's not nepotism hires, but it seems like these guys should be well-equipped at ending lives.
And like, what are these super beasts, super creatures? This is where, like, I'm sure at this point, people are starting to fancify the story. These mythical beasts, you know what I mean? It does all these different things, and that's why you can't find it, because it doesn't want to be found. And
yes, he's even avoided the royal army and the experts and the gun bearer, and it just makes it more terrifying.
Yeah.
But suffice to say, I mean, history tells the tale. Whether these are fancified or not, the killings continue, the attacks continue. August 11th is the next one we're going to talk about. And so whether he was being hunted or not, or this creature, I said he, but this entity, this thing, it's still out there. And so this beast attacks again. This time, it targets a person named Marie-Jeanne Vallée. So Vallée was around 19 or 20 years old, and she was crossing a shallow stream with her sister when this wolf appeared. It attempted to attack her, but she was armed with a bayonet attached to a pole, and this is the image we were talking about, the one in the very center of the kind of many-paneled, image B, if you want to take a look again.
Got it, yep, looking at it now.
Yeah, and so that's her in the middle, depicted as she's stabbing the beast in the chest, and ultimately the beast gets away, but doing this, attacking the beast, saves her and her sister. And this kind of brings me back to your initial reaction, which is, are there multiple? Because if any of them are sustaining injury, maybe succumbing to these injuries, maybe that's why another one fills its place or what have you, or maybe that's why they're everywhere but nowhere. But after this attack, she becomes known as the Maid of Gévaudan, and in 1995, here's another image for you, Fredo, A statue was erected in her honor. This image comes from the proper degenerate, but you can see that three-dimensional depiction of that 2D sketch we had earlier.
Oh, yeah, that beast is massive. It's almost like the size of like you could ride it.
Yeah, that's a small horse for sure. A mule, maybe?
Yeah, it's like a dog. It's a small horse with a very long tail. You can see how that thing is terrifying, but also that's going to leave some tracks. You should be able to track that thing.
That's what I'm saying. Where are these muddy tracks? We're at a stream right now.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, so amidst the fanfare of Valet's success, Antoine the gun bearer is continuing this hunt. And around September 20th, 1765, Antoine killed a large gray wolf. The beast measured 80 centimeters or 31 inches tall, 1.7 meters or 5 foot 7 inches long, and it reportedly weighed 60 kilograms, or which would be like a large wolf, 130 pounds.
Jeez.
So this wolf was slain near the Abbaye de Chaz and was thus named Le Loup de Chaz, or the Wolf of Chaz is just the name of the abbey there. And in his official statement, Antoine said this: "We declare by the present report signed from our hand, we never saw a big wolf that could be compared to this one. Hence, we believe this could be the fearsome beast that caused so much damage." End quote.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Bringing in different beasts and creatures claim that is the one.
Right. He could be doing that, especially since he's like, this is the biggest wolf I've ever seen. Could you doubt it? No, it's the beast.
But also you got to think that, like, you know, you've had a handful of eyewitnesses at this point.
Yeah, you absolutely do. There were witnesses that saw this whole thing go down, saw the capturing and killing of this creature, and even saw the defensive scars on the body of this wolf, which would line up with some of the previous injuries it would have sustained before this. And so maybe Marie-Jeanne Vallée kind of began opening the peanut butter jar, and Antoine came along here and finished cracking it open. So after the killing was documented, Antoine's son, who had been with him on this entire journey, then traveled back to Paris with the body of this wolf. And there is a depiction of this moment, where he's there with the carcass of this wolf, presenting it to onlookers. And some sources say it was his son, some say it was his nephew, but either way, the body traveled back to Paris.
What was it? Taxidermy? It's like standing upright in this image.
Yeah, I think the artist took some liberties of so it could look clear as being upright as opposed to kind of laying down on the ground.
Yeah, a lump.
But he's presenting it and he's like, look, my father or my uncle has done it. And supposedly, while this was all going down, Antoine actually stayed behind. And he continued to hunt down a female wolf and 2 pups that eyewitnesses had reported seeing with the beast, saying that maybe this was his family. And so Antoine's like, okay, well, if we got a beast passing on these large genetic aggressive traits or what have you, I'm just going to wipe out the whole line. And so he succeeds in killing the rest of the family. And then finally himself, he returns to Paris on November 3rd. He was met with fame and titles and awards for all these efforts. Yep, there it is. So he's motive to lie there. And the rest of November was quite calm. It was quiet. Many neighborhoods were breathing easy, knowing that the beast had been slain, the great beast. No more deaths. We're all good. Oops. It's December, and the beast is back.
This is a movie, man.
It's a movie.
Movie in itself. The beast is back. They didn't slay the proper beast. Over here just took out a whole family for no reason.
Yep. Or I don't know, maybe outsourced the purchase of a wolf carcass or what have you.
True. That's very, very true. What was it? Troll that they were putting like fake carcass? Troll. And then they used doing little fake bear footprints and stuff like that.
Yes. He had 2 like walking sticks with bare feet at the bottom of them, like bear paws. And he's like, I'm leaving tracks to make it look like they had killed a bear, but instead it was a troll. Goofy movie. What a good time. So like I said, November seems quite calm because everyone's like, cool, let's let our guard down. But the first sighting of this second wave, this next beast or the existing beast, whatever it was December 2nd. And it seems that this beast, whether the same or a new one, attacked 2 boys ages 6 and 12. So the pattern continues. From there, the attacks continue. More fatalities are reported. However, the beast seemed different this time. Previously, the beast could be scared away by cattle, or maybe kind of somebody fronting it with a pike and stabbing at it. But this beast seemed to show no fear whatsoever. And fear then seemed to rise among the community that this new beast was evidently harder to tame. However, the crown was moving on. They're seeking refuge. They're seeking another kill because there is at least, whether it's another beast or the same beast, it's back and it's a sequel. And the king's like, whatever. We've had our PR. We've paid out our people. I've got my beast. And the king kind of leaves Gévaudan for themselves. And throughout 1766, these attacks seem to continue, although they are a little sporadic. And locals then try different tactics themselves to kill this so-called new beast throughout the year. But its behavior once again seemed to respond to these tactics, and it changed. Almost responding, like I said, these attacks become less frequent, and it seemed as though it had settled into a more specific area because the sightings weren't spanning as wide. So the attacks are not as consistent or as frequent, but they are localized a lot more.
Maybe makes it easier to track and kill?
Maybe. But it seems that these attacks never fully stopped. And on June 17th, 1967, the beast killed 19-year-old Jean Bastide. And then fed up, a young nobleman named Marquis d'Apache organized a hunt to look for the beast. This is where it feels very much like Beauty and the Beast. Just 2 days later, okay, this guy is cooking with his efforts as opposed to everyone before. He sets out this nobleman, and 2 days later on June 19th, a local hunter, Jean Chastel, shot a large wolf near Mount Moshe. This was near the heart of the Margeride Mountains, where a lot of these attacks had been happening for years now, and an autopsy performed on this particular wolf found that there were human remains inside the body.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. And so this seems to be the end of the attacks. No more attacks happened after this, and because there's human remains inside this wolf, they're like, all right, we got him. Now we're done.
I would think so. You got a beast. It's in the area that it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's got human bodies. What else could you want? Although I still have the theory that there's multiple out there, though.
I think that stands to reason. You know what I mean? Like, I really think that's what's going on. And now this next point is kind of speculative. It remains so anyway. And some have said, though, that a servant named Gilbert was ordered to take the beast to Versailles and show it to the king. The king reportedly rejected this carcass, this creature, as the remains gave off such a foul odor in the summer heat that they were simply not welcome. Again, the king could also just simply be in denial of the ego bruise that, like, I just paid all this money, sent all my guys out, I thought I had it, I announced I did, and then you bring me this, like, I don't want to look at this. But in the end, this is wild. Chastel, who was the hunter that shot it 2 days after the nobleman kind of began this new effort, he was given 72 livres on September 9th, 1767 for his contributions, which is a far cry from the original bounty of 6,000 and even less than those young boys who staved this thing off. 72!
Yeah, I think it's like an ego hit type of situation.
Yeah. He goes, you know what? Get this guy out of here and just give him whatever you got in your pocket right now. Just get him out. Just get him out of here. That's what this is what this sounds like. Okay, well, this leads us to the theories. We will definitely talk about this being a pack of wolves or like a unique type of wolf. I think that's where we're going to end. But I really wanted to start in the more interesting arena. The idea that maybe this was a serial killer in some way.
Yeah, you did mention that at the beginning that's one of the theories. And so...
Yeah, there's a lot of things I think you have to ignore, but the serial killer theory does lean into a few nooks and crannies.
Okay.
So some have speculated that the murders were committed by a serial killer, and I think they're talking about all of them, wave 1 and 2. Now, this has been suggested kind of specifically because of the full decapitation that was seen in a few of these attacks.
Right.
Which some believe would have been very difficult for any sort of animal to complete, or for an animal to want to complete. And so maybe it was human. Some also think that this explains the victims being more often than not young girls. Again, I can't help but see that a lot of them were just young people, young kids. And so I'm like, a predator would go for a weak link. So I don't know, my questions here are like, were body parts fed to a wolf in order to hide them? Like, did the second wave of attacks actually feature a person who kind of hid in the shuffle? And maybe that's why the second wave of attacks were more focused on a specific area, or seemed to be more aggressive. Like, were they trying to hide behind the idea of a beast to get away with otherwise just slaughter, you know?
Dude, yeah, it very well could be. Because again, you know, this beast had like an MO.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely see the serial killer thing, and that's be smart. Feed it to a beast.
Yeah. Like, what if I was a hunter who was killing? And again, I'm adding in my own kind of thinking, because otherwise the serial killer theory just kind of says that. The decapitations, the targets, that's all we got. I'm just trying to layer in some more thoughts. I don't fully subscribe to it, but I could see it. The first wave being an animal, it actually gets killed and taken to the king, bada, bada, bada. And then somebody goes like, well, I've got some wolves and I hate people and kills some people. And then like, maybe if they want to then get away with it, they go, look, I found a wolf. Let's open it up. Oh yeah, there's hands in there. You know, it feels like too much, but
like there's a lot of series of events that need to happen for this to be pulled off.
Yes.
But I can see it.
Yeah. It also, again, ignores a lot of the, I saw a wolf.
That's true. There's a lot of eyewitnesses.
Right. Now, hold on a second. I might have blown this case wide open, Fredo.
Here we go.
I went back into the laboratories of my mind, and I thought for about 5 milliseconds, and I thought, what if a man who was really good at prancercising, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where people move like horses, what if he put on a wolf suit, okay? And he was able to, you know, efficiently run around on all 4 limbs, and he looked then like a man-sized wolf because he was a man in a wolf suit, and he was attacking people and biting at them and then actually stabbing them a little bit. But like, so what if it's a killer disguised as a wolf?
How embarrassing would it be to get caught?
Oh yeah, you can't get caught in that way.
Just
maybe
like
that's why you couldn't get caught.
Guys, guys, it's okay. I'm a human being.
Right. Pranked you.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And yeah, and if it began on the second wave, you know, it starts with a wolf and it begins the second wave, and that's just a dude dressed as a wolf disguised as another wolf. You know what I mean? And then he can round a corner and he could pop up, throw it back, and maybe it just like collapses on the ground, and the inside is maybe layered with some nice embroidery, so it looks like he's just standing next to a nice shag rug.
You know what? It's...
You can see that? You can agree with it 100%?
Not necessarily can I see it or agree with it, but, you know, it's a path that your mind went down.
Not necessarily can I agree with it in any faction of a way, but I understand you said words.
Yeah, well, I understand that you had an imagination.
Okay, well, that's kind of an interesting segue into the next one, which is the idea of a werewolf, okay? We did a whole episode, like I said. If you're curious about it, go take a look, because the werewolf episode went way deeper than I could have possibly envisioned. It goes all the way back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, the European witch trials. But the idea here is that, again, it's a little bit more metaphysical here, but due to its size and ferocity, some do believe that this could have been evidence of a mythical werewolf, a person transforming into a wolf, hence why you have the motive of a person with the veracity and witnesses of a wolf.
I mean, again, I mentioned a couple times, you know, it's like, oh, there's some mythical tales being told on the side, I'm sure, and this is it.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the whole man turned into wolf and then does a thing, and then that would line up with not being able to find this creature or this.
It would line up. Yeah. Another interesting element. This honestly makes more sense than the serial killer angle, I think, because a lot of people are like, hold on a second. If it's been shot, stabbed, and otherwise should be mortally wounded. If it's a werewolf, looking at the lore and the fact that, in modern times it takes a silver bullet, but in our episode we talk a little bit more about the lore behind trying to kill an immortal or witchcraft-oriented shape-shifting werewolf. Some are thinking, okay, well maybe that's why it was able to survive being shot or stabbed, was because it was some sort of mythical beast. It would be immune to these bullets otherwise. But in the line of this, in the realm of cryptids and things, there's kind of a sub-theory here, which is to say that an otherwise long extinct creature might have been present. We talked about this with the Loch Ness Monster, that maybe a creature from historical times somehow survived to this day. And so some people theorize that it could have been a bear dog, which I believe went extinct somewhere between 6 and 10 million years ago, but don't quote me. Could be a dire wolf, which I believe went extinct about 11,000 years ago. So it's a little bit more believable, but man, if you look at any modern estimates of the size of a dire wolf, those things would have been terrifying.
Yeah.
A wolf standing at your shoulder as an upright 6-foot man is crazy.
Absolutely not terrifying.
But the interesting one that I think taps into something pretty real is the long extinct hyenodon. Take a look at this image of what the hyenodon looked like, and let me hear your thoughts.
Oh, I mean, that looks just like the creature.
Doesn't it look exactly like the creature?
Yeah, exactly like it, 100%.
Big, deep chest, slim waist, long snout, ratty tail.
Damn, was it just the tail end of like a creature that was going extinct?
Well, the hyenodon went extinct over 10 million years ago, if I recall correctly. It's certainly by millions of years at least. And this image comes from Encyclopedia Britannica.
Well, not necessarily like the hyenodon itself, but like, just a creature that existed and then...
Right, like we thought it was gone, but maybe... the dire wolf, that's kind of the thinking here, is like, was this a dire wolf and maybe one of a rare one that just happened to make it to modern times? I don't know if it's impossible, but it might be impossible. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's corners of the world, especially at this time, that might be lesser explored, maybe not fully unexplored in this arena. It's the same thing that chases any cryptid. Is this a creature that we thought was long gone and we just haven't seen it for a while? We didn't see the giant squid until we did. So
true.
What's interesting about the hyenodon is the translation that I mentioned earlier under image B. It mentions hyena, and this kind of segues into the next theory. Before I segue, I do want to say a creature of this size, a dire wolf, a hyenodon, a bear dog, these would be hard to hide. These were large animals and would certainly cause attention. They wouldn't be able to escape detection for this long. There would at least be, historical records, or at least like bone records or what have you, or people seeing the thing.
That's the thing. Like, it's a big creature too, right? It doesn't have this like hyper intelligence, and so it's not gonna be like, I'm hiding from the people, like,
right.
But if we have all these eyewitnesses, it's like, well, they saw something, and I wish we could just hold up as like, is this what you saw? Like, is this exactly what you saw?
Yeah, exactly. Go back in time and solve this.
What happened was real. To what extent is kind of like what we're trying to line up.
And that's where I think these next couple of theories really start to dial it in. So like I was saying, we're talking about hyenas. Some people think it might have just been another wolf-like animal, something that looked similar. And if you hadn't understood what a hyena or even like a smaller lion would have looked like, you might have attributed it to a wolf because that's something you're more familiar with. Again, looking at some of the captions historically of this creature, it does translate to hyena in a few ways. Now, this raises the question, how would a hyena or a lion... Honestly, you talked about Ghosts in the Darkness. You're talking about a lion. You might be onto something, because maybe it was, but how did it get here, right? That's the question. And some hypothesize that maybe a lion cub was picked up by a soldier while they were in Africa during the 7 Years' War, which ended a year before these attacks. And then when it got too big, maybe dumped it. Just dumped it into the wild.
The Lake Placid situation.
A little Lake Placid situation, And so it's young enough to not have a big bushy mane, assuming it's a male. If it's a female, it wouldn't have that in general. But don't like young teenage lions have a bit of a mohawk going on.
But then also, like, a lion does lion things, right? And they've been hunted for hundreds of years, and it wouldn't be a creature that would be that hard to find. That's the thing, right? If you have all these professional trackers, or like the royal guards or whatever going after this thing, I don't think it would have been that hard to find.
I'm just chucking you a random image of an adolescent lion. We're not going to include this in the podcast specifically because this one's watermarked to heck, but you can see that this lion's got a little bit of a mohawk going on.
Yeah, which could fit the profile for sure. But the whole.
But I'm with you.
It's hard to track. They couldn't track the creature. I think that's like a big thing.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe this thing's up in a tree and they never looked up. You know, I don't know how they couldn't get this thing, because in my mind, I think that's just maybe some of the exaggeration made it through into the historical record, and that's why it's a little murky, but I don't know. So others think it's possible, right, continuing with this theory, that a hyena or some other animal might have escaped in transport. Maybe there was an accident of some kind during an exotic animal trade in Marseille. This would have been about 161 or 260 kilometers away from this area. There's not a documented reference to an accident like this. It's all hypothetical, but it's all possible as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be impossible for us to know. We don't really have the records here of any sort of bones or what have you. But what we do know on the record is that a wolf was killed twice, and these are the creatures that were brought to the king. And that leads us to the final theory. So some historians believe that the most likely answer is that there was simply an abundance of wolves in the area at the time of the attacks. I think this is something that you were pretty much kind of like chasing down the whole time, is that it just felt like multiple aggressive wolves, right?
Yeah.
Wolves are known to be abundant in this area during this time period, but what made Gévaudan stand out was the particularly violent nature of these attacks. I think that's the curiosity we're chasing down here. And while wolves have been known to attack people, they do not commonly murder their victims in such a gruesome manner, in such a specific manner. Some have speculated that these wolves, or maybe a wolf, involved in this incident might have been a hybrid between a wolf and another large animal. Again, hypothetical here. But this could explain why the beast appeared similar to, but not quite exactly, a wolf. Maybe why it was so large. Or maybe, because there are people out there that are well over 7 foot tall. That doesn't mean that your bog standard average human's gonna be over 7 foot tall.
Right.
But maybe this wolf was just a big wolf. You think I'm gonna say it was posing up for the NBA? Like,
yeah.
What was that dog that played basketball?
Airbud?
Airbud.
Still making those movies.
Yeah, they are?
Yeah.
How many buds have we gone through?
He's gone to space. He's done all kinds of things.
Oh, no space, bud. Well, maybe we just got a large wolf, okay? Sometimes some wolves are gonna be big boys, okay?
Abnormally large, yeah.
Abnormally large. Maybe we just had a large mama, and she was out there, and she had some big cubs that followed in her footsteps, hence wave 2. I don't know. But within this, whether it was a group or individual, we may never know. A group does make sense, but some have speculated that these beasts might have just been wolves that were solitary. If they didn't travel with a pack, or maybe they were injured or sick, they might have become habituated to hunting humans. And as we talked about earlier, if it was rabid or if it was starving, this could have also turned it towards humans. And maybe just the size of a human next to cattle just seemed to be a little bit easier of a target for some of these wolves. But typically, it is worth mentioning, typically wolves fear humans. If they were experiencing any sort of stress, maybe that's why they strayed from their ways. Who's to say? But in closing, we may never know truly, at least in 100% confident ways, what the creature behind the Beast of Gévaudan was, and to this day, the tale lives on as a prominent story in French folklore.
I think it was a beast of its time. And I do like the fact that just off the rip, it was like, oh no, this is a real thing. People have seen it. There's eyewitnesses. Like, oh,
yeah.
we're not talking about some possibly made up creature.
Yeah, because when, like I said, Haste, thank you, Task Force member Haste, for submitting this one. When I first heard of it, I thought, ooh, a cryptid. No, but it's not.
It's not, no.
It really is a true
too.
Yeah, it really is a true crime tale with an animal-centric answer. And of course, people snuck in a little bit of like Jack the Ripper style stuff, but a fascinating one. I had no idea how much depth there would be to this story.
No clue.
And
you learn so much on this show, episode after episode. It just,
yeah.
Our brains are so massive now. Our necks are going to snap.
Massive brains. And with those massive brains, the laboratory of the mind crafts very brilliant ideas, as you saw in the theories, that everyone understands, subscribes, and believes in now. And
we're all just like looking at each other going, And
I'm seeing all the pens move, and it's going right into the historical records, and this will outlive me, I'm sure. Yes. Well, Task Force, as always, thank you so much for supporting us. We are approaching 6 years old. We just celebrated our Indieversary here at the beginning of June. Like I said at the top of the show, Friday, July 10th, mark your calendars. Fredo is cooking up a heck of a streaming show. We're going to be doing all sorts of things, but stay tuned for those details in the weeks to come. We'll let you know what those things are and how else you can help us celebrate our 6-year anniversary. But some shout outs to Task Force members. The newest elite member is Nolan Roberts, so thank you for joining just moments ago.
Welcome.
And also shout out to our mod and buff scientist of the week, Nubia. You're awesome. You've been in our community for as long as this podcast has existed and the times before it, so thank you very much. And then our buff scientist for the week, we got Tucker Did It, Gavin Day, and appropriately, Wolf472.
Oh, hey.
Maybe it was them, but they'll never tell. But with that said, Fredo, I'll see you right back here next Monday for yet another mystery.